show. This is the Steel Weasel, here for you to give you all your Carburetor goodies. Today we've got fuel line. The good things and the bad things. Okay, this fuel line's been on for a while now and it's started to yellow. It's also started to get a little bit harder. So as I said, you need to replace these fairly often. This piping, as I mentioned, has given me a little few issues because of the steel reinforcing it's got. The steel wire reinforcing means that it's very difficult to clamp it. So I've been using the lock wire method on this to make a decent seal. But as it's getting harder now, it's now starting to get a little drip here, as you can see at the back, which is just running down here, running towards the back of the carb and then dripping off. You've got to be really careful with issues like this. Fuel line is really dangerous because Carburetors have an exhaust pipe red hot directly below the carburetor. So this needs to be addressed straight away. And as you can see, as it drips down, it goes, oh shit, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh my God, that was close. Okay, seeing as we're going to change the petrol pipe, we're also just going to take the carb completely off and give it a good little clean, so we know this everything's correct in here. So we check everything, clean the carburetor. No harm done to check your carb every now and again for cleanliness, because no matter how good your tank is, you'll always get something coming down. I mean, they're old Carburetors, so there's a very good chance that you're going to get something come down into your carb. So let's give it a clean while it's off. Now let's nip off these lock wires. It's a really good way of making sure your fuel line stays on, even though with this stuff, as you can see, it started to discolour around here and it's making it sort of drip slightly, even though it's got the lock wire on. Once it starts going hard, this stuff, it just can't seem to make a seal. You need that softness in the rubber. There you go. And that's off. And we can give the engine bay a little bit of a clean as well while we're in there. Check everything. Good. It's a good thing to check your rubber mount as well while you're in this position. Once you've got the carb off, check the rubber mount for softness, for splits. Never over tighten the Jubilee clips because that can cause your rubber mount to split. Just the right amount of tension on them. That one seems okay. There we go. So we'll take the choke off. I like these little garden trays. This is the bottom, this is a drip tray from under a flower pot. You can get it from your garden centre. They're brilliant. Not only it sits nicely on your floorboard, it catches bits that you drop or fuel. And it protects your floorboard from getting scratched, so it's a win-win. Really good. Very handy to have. Garden centre cost you about £3 or something, maybe even not that. Right, I don't drain the fuel out before I start. I always leave the fuel in the carb, so when you open the float up, the float bowl, you can actually see what's in there and you ain't drained it all off, like any water or anything like that. Because now with these with the ethanol in your fuel, there's always a good chance of absorbing some water. So the first thing we're going to do is open this up and have a look what's inside. What up close look in here, and it's absolutely spotless. There's no signs of any water or debris. It's clean as a whistle. I'm going to give it a spray with some carb cleaner. And then let it dry. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is going to remove all the jets. And the atomizer. And a float. And needle. So we're going to give the needle an inspection of the tip to make it sure it's still good and it's not gone out of shape. That seems to be good. Check the spring loading on it. That's good. So our needle's good. This carb was sealing anyway, so I was pretty sure it was okay. We're not going to mess with the flow tight because that was already done by me and set. So it's all pretty good. They don't all going to fall out. Okay, we'll give these a spray up. As you can see, I've already changed the atomizer on this to my preferred atomizer. I put the Polini one, 20 hole atomizer. Give all our jets a good old spray to clean anything out, and it's now ready to put back together. Okay. Pilot jet back in. Atomizer. With main jet. And now the needle, which I normally hold in place like that with my finger to stop this moving about. And that way it goes on easily. Everything should be free. Action should be free. Now I've showed you in the previous video how to set the float height, which is really important. Making sure that your float valve seats properly and seals properly before you start any jetting whatsoever, and your float height's correct. This is all clean now, and it can all go back together. These PWKs can be tricky. It's best to get that pin in there first that's on the choke. And there we go. We need some new fuel line on this carburetor, and as probably everybody knows out there, it is a minefield trying to get fuel line. There's so many different types. There's literally hundreds of companies that make it and thousands of different products out there. So I can't show you all the products, but I've got a few bad ones and a few good ones. So you can see what to look for maybe and what to avoid. Okay, this is probably the worst fuel line I managed to find. I had to order it off eBay, got it from China. It's just normal rubber, the wall's quite thin. It's got a problem where it's very prone to kinking. So when you bend it, it kinks really easily, to be avoided at all costs. Not only that, this is not ethanol resistant, so it's gonna crack, and rubber always suffers from cracking anyway. When you're looking at fuel lines, to be on the safe side, change your fuel line every 12 months. What's it gonna cost you? £2. So every 12 months, replace it. Replace your fuel line, but don't use stuff like this. So this is a no-no. Okay, here's another fuel line that I got from a local motorcycle shop. Very similar. It's actually rubber on the inside. It's a little bit thicker than the last one I showed you on the walls, and it's got this woven material on the outside to reinforce it. This is really bad fuel line, because this woven covering, reinforcing, you can't see any cracks appearing in your fuel line, giving you any warning signs. So it's also quite prone to kinking, and you can't see any cracks appearing. So all you see is a wet pipe, and it's slowly dripping onto your fuel line, onto your engine. So this is not very good. It's not ethanol resistant, to be avoided. And on to our next fuel line. This one, I believe I got it from a scooter dealer, and I think, what does that say? Is that BGM on there? Let me have a look. Right, this fuel line, apparently it's ethanol resistant, but it's got a wire reinforcing in it, which, okay, it stops it from kinking. It does stop it from kinking, but the drawback is, if you're trying to put it onto a banjo, it's very difficult to get on, because the wire doesn't allow it to expand at all, because it's simply too stiff. And once it's on, you can't, a Jubilee clip or any other clip that I've found simply won't tighten it up onto your banjo, because it's literally the reinforcing of the metal inside stops it. It's just impossible. So what I've done with this type of pipe, I've used the lock wire, because that will then go in between the wire and actually get you a bit of pressure on it and make it seal a bit better. But I've had issues with this, so it is now fired, sacked, and it will be used no more. So yeah, there might be some people out there with this kind of fuel line on. I don't like it for the reasons I've just said, is that you cannot crimp it with the Jubilee clip, because the wire stops it from crushing up, and you can't get it on it very easily. So that one's out. And on to our next one, which is a transparent fuel line. I'm trying to see what maker it is, and this is Storex again. This is not bad. This is probably quite a good fuel line on a Vespa. Bonuses of transparent fuel lines is you can actually see if you've got deposits inside the fuel line, like rust from a tank or anything. You can actually see them sitting in the fuel line, which you can't see with black rubber fuel lines. So that is one advantage of this type of fuel line, if you want to pick it. This would be, it's great on a Vespa. The only problem I find with it, it's got a really thick wall. The wall is so thick that it's difficult to get onto some carbs. On a Dell'Auto, no problem, it fits lovely. Really good. So this pipe is really good on Dell'Autos, but on a PWK, it's a little bit different. It does fit on your PWK, but it rocks about. It's not a tight fit because it's an 8mm. I think so. I think it's 8mm internal bore. We just measure it. Verna. Right, to make things easier, rather than keep measuring stuff, I've got ourselves a 8mm and 7mm drill bit. So the banjo on the Dell'Auto is 8mm. The internal diameter of this pipe is 8mm, and it fits the Dell'Auto perfectly. Just the right amount of resistance. That is great there. But on a Lambretta fuel tap, it simply goes on too easily, because the Lambretta fuel tap is 7mm. You might not think it, but it is. It's slightly smaller than the Dell'Auto. So if you use this fuel line, you're going to have to use a clip on here. This will undoubtedly leak without a clip on it. Right, the other fuel lines, this one turns out to be 7mm, and it's a tight fit on the 7mm drill bit. So it's really difficult to get it onto Dell'Auto banjos, almost impossible. And onto this one, it fits, but it's still a bit loose around the neck here. And you can't crimp it down. So that one is pretty good. Will be perfect on a Vespa, I believe. But on a Lambretta with a Dell'Auto carb, fantastic. But with a Mikuni or a PWK, you're going to have issues with leaks unless you get a good clip on it. Right, next fuel line into the fray is directly from BGM, specifically made, but it's made by the same company again. That's Style Tex or whatever it is that's stamped on there. So this is made by the same company as this one, except this one has got BGM on it. Now it feels a little hard to me. Let's have a look at the fit on the Lambretta fuel pipe. That's pretty good. That is good, that's good. So this one is a smaller diameter. No, the 8mm doesn't fit, the 7mm. It's 7mm. Right. So this is going to be difficult to get onto your Dell'Auto pipe. It's going to be quite a good hard fit. It does go on. Let's try it on the PWK. It's a snugger fit than the other one. Not bad at all. But the only problem with your PWK is we're going to look at this next, is fitting clips on. There's simply the pipe for your fuel line intake on the PWKs runs really close to the carburetor there, and it makes it almost impossible to get a clip on. So we're going to have to look. We need a slightly in between this pipe, slightly thinner wall, but the same fit on the inside. And I've been searching everywhere and unable to find it. But now we have a front runner. New pipe I've managed to acquire. It's got some reinforcing in it. It's a little smaller on the outer diameter
than the BGM pipe, not by much, maybe 1/2 millimeter maybe. It's a snug fit and it's got a bit more clearance around for the PWK carb. So this is my ultimate pipe for my PWK. Fitment on the, yes, that's a nice fit on the Lambretta fuel tap as well. Now this one I managed to get from a ship's chandler or a yacht chandler, because I live by the seaside. I've got ship's chandlers about, and this is their fuel line. Now marine stuff is normally a really high quality, and this seems to be really good stuff. I'm really happy with this. So this is where we're going on our fuel line. Now we're going to have a look at some clips. Okay, so what we've got our BGM pipe here, which seems to fit absolutely gorgeously on our Del Auto. So you fit your fuel line, and if you're going to use the lock wire, don't over tighten it. Twist it round 2 times so it's doubled. Slide it into position. And then twist it. This is a proper lock wire, it's not just your ordinary wire, because your ordinary wire simply snaps. So then we just twist our wire until it squeezes down onto our pipe. And then snip it off. We'll get a close up of that. And that creates a nice little seal on your pipe and secures your pipe on there. Now, the next type I'm going to show you is a double spring clip hose pipe. So we'll snip that off. It is good. Oh, it is good. It is good. I can't even get it off once it. That is the drawback of this. It's not reusable. So once you put your lock wire, although it really does work well, you can't get it on and off without cutting it off and putting a new one. So, as I said, this is a very tight fit on the Del Auto, this BGM pipe, and it can be quite difficult to get it on and off your Del Auto once it's on there, as you can see. Whereas on the Lambretta fuel tap, it's a lot easier because the diameter is smaller, the outside diameter. So the other clip we've got for this is going to be, we're going to demonstrate a double spring clip. This is a double wired spring clip, what most automotive places use, including a lot of motorbike companies. So you want to get one that just fits on the outside snugly. Check the next one down. So I've got a selection. That one's too tight. That's going to have to be the one. So that goes on, fuel line on, slide that up, then you just compress the spring and then release it in position, and that then gives you enough to keep that fuel line secured and tight. Okay, that's a demo with our BGM. Now we come to our PWK, and the problem is we have with this, with the BGM pipe, is it's actually rubbing on the side of the carb. So there's no way we're going to get a clip on with it, because the clip simply won't push down past the body of the carb. This is a problem I've been having with these types of pipes. Thick wall, can't get my clip on, so I've had to use the only thing that's been able to get around there is lock wire. So that's why, the main reason I've gone from this BGM pipe, and I've decided not to use that, to this marine pipe, and the marine pipe seems to fit beautifully. Fuel line on, and there's still room to get my spring clip on.
And when it comes to Jubilee clips, I don't use them for this reason. Right, the problem with Jubilee clips is the small ones, the big Jubilee clips on big hoses, they're fine. But when you get down to this small, you've got a flat on this strap on the Jubilee clip, and as you tighten them up, they become more oval. So they just simply don't seal, they make things worse. So I do try to avoid these. There are some micro Jubilee clips that I've seen that are very good because they're very thin strapped and they've got a thin strap here. It's a very small strap here. They're not very strong, but they do the job for piping, but they're really hard to get hold of. I don't know how I can get hold of some of them. But these ones, these normal Jubilee clips, I avoid using them.
Okay, so that's that spring clip fitted. What I'm using a 10mm outer diameter spring clip on this pipe, and it's got a 7mm internal diameter on the pipe. So we've got 10mm outside, even though the pipe is 11mm outside diameter, and it's 13mm outside diameter on the BGM, which I'm using a 12mm pipe clip on it, so 1mm smaller to give you that grip on it. So unfortunately it's still rubbing and still pushing that clip, and I don't like that the way that is. So I'm gonna use this carburetor as a little test piece, even though it's brand new, to get a better fit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to Dremel around this part of the throttle body to give us a bit more clearance on here, so we can have a better fit on our fuel lines. Okay, so I've taken some material from behind here in the throttle body to allow us to have better clearance for our fuel line and our clip to go in place. And once it's on, you can't see where I've been doing any work anyway, and that is so much better. Yep, well, that's a bit of a disadvantage with these PWK carbs, is they haven't really left enough clearance there, and I don't really want to use thin wall pipe and smaller clips because they tend to fail and bend. So this is the pipe I want to use, which has got an 11mm outside diameter and a 7mm inside diameter, and I'm using a 10mm clip on it, and that is giving me now a nice snug fit. So let's go and fit some on our bike, shall we? Right, my fuel line is finally on. I'm using one clip on the fuel tap. It's routed through a little spring clip here and then up and over. And the reason I've got this dip here and then up and over is so I catch all the crap and debris here and it doesn't get to my carb. So I'm not using an inline filter. So I catch the debris here, hopefully, and then it doesn't get to my carb. Right, I like to have plenty of length on my hose because that gives you a volume of fuel available for the carburetor. So you get less chance of fuel starvation if you've got a longer hose on it. And if you have a problem, you've got plenty to shorten down. You can chop a piece off and you've still got plenty of space. If you have a hose that's just exactly the right length, if you have a problem, you've got nowhere to go. So you've got nothing to be able to trim off and reconnect. So that's why I like to have this big, nice big loop. Seems to work really well, as long as you make sure that this is below the level of the tank. So you've still got enough gravity feed there to feed your carb. If your fuel line's up here, it ain't gonna work. So that's it. The clips fit really nice, they're nice and tight. I've double clipped on the carburetor to be sure. So I've got 2 of them fitted on the carb to get more pressure on the hose. So there's even less chance of leakage. And now with the fuel on, I can wiggle it about and it's all completely dry. Nothing coming out. Finally, success.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks a lot for coming. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share with all your friends. See you later.